Hey everybody, I'm going to make another video today about language learning. My last language learning video wasn't perfect, so today I'm going to try to build upon it and also have a surprise guest. Okay. So this is once again 5 language learning tips from Linking. My first tip is to look at books in the language that you're trying to study. These can be books that you already know because they're in your native language and then they were translated into another language. Those are great. That's a great way to use the resources that you have to learn another language. Another great book to use is the Bible. It's been translated into a bunch of other languages, and it's compartmentalized into chapters and verses. You can compare them side by side, and it can help you better understand the grammar, the vocabulary of the language that you're trying to learn. Other great books to use are books that were written in your target language and then translated into English later. These can be, big classics even. Works like The Hunchback of Notre Dame and War and Peace, if you're willing to torture yourself by reading War and Peace twice, you poor Russian learner, you. Or, if you're going to get political, you can read some Das Kapital. I'm kidding, don't do that, that's silly. My second tip for helping yourself learn a language is something that I saw on Reddit recently that I had thought of before, I swear. So, I had done this personally, and then I saw it on Reddit and I was like, okay, this validates my biases. I'm going to have to, talk about it in the language learning video. So, something that I've done to help myself better speak another language is listen to the accent of somebody as they speak English. Let me explain. When someone learns another language, they take the phonemes, the sounds that they already know how to make, with them into it. So that means that all the vowels that you're pronouncing and all the consonants that you're pronouncing, you're trying your best to map the sounds you already know onto a language, and you're going to get that wrong. There are different sounds in every language, no matter how related they are. That's what accents are, and that is what makes dialects. Life hack: listen to how they speak your language, because that's what they're taking from that language to your language. And then don't be like someone who's mocking somebody else, and don't be, what's the word I want to use? I think derisive is the word I want to use. Don't be derisive of them. But when you're learning that language, take that accent and try to speak that language in the accent that they speak your language. And your pronunciation will be better. I've done it before with Farsi and Arabic and Spanish, and I've gotten compliments from it. It could just be people being nice to a young man, but, worked for me. Now this is the part where we talk to somebody with a lot more experience than me learning languages. Che, take it away.
Thank you for that linking. I'm Che Languages. Go and check out my YouTube channel at the end of the video. I also made a video in collaboration with Linking, also about language learning. So the first point I'm going to talk about here is particles. Now, what are particles, you may ask? They are these words indeed. Words such as the, a, and, this, that, here, there, and, when, what, where, who, why, because, with, without, on, in. There are a few more. Most languages have around 40 to 50 of them, and most languages consist of about 30% of particles. And when I say that, I don't mean in their vocabulary count, but I mean in their everyday speech, how frequently they get used, because these are all the words that connect sentences, they help paint a picture of an image, they construct sentences. It's very hard, in fact it's impossible to have a language without particles. So in our everyday speech and in a text that you might read, particles will end up being about 30% of that text. So all you need to do is completely just transform that, translate it into another language. Here we in Spanish we have ella, los, las, uno, una, este, esto, esta, eso, esa, ese, aquí, acá, allí, allá, y cuando, qué, donde, quién, por qué, con, sin, sobre, en. It's that easy. Now, who highlighted the importance of particles was a man called Frederick Bodmer. He wrote quite a famous linguistics book called The Loom of Language back in the 1940s. And he says that particles are the key to any language. And I would agree, certainly. The first thing I did when I went to learn Portuguese was I went and learned these particles here. And generally, it's the first thing I do, or more or less, when I learn a new language. I've still got to learn particles in Yiddish yet. But, I know most of them from the new Yiddish course on Duolingo. It teaches them. But it's honestly like a really secret sort of technique that helps you get further. It helps you actually be able to start constructing sentences when speaking with native speakers, because you can start connecting things, you can start asking questions. So that's our first point. Now, for our second point, you may notice that we are on Hebrew Pod 101, which is part of the Innovative Language podcast. I could have gone on any of them. I just went on this one because it's one of the ones I use, because I want to talk about the importance of speaking, or learning how to speak a language. Now, I talked about this on my collaboration video that's on my channel. I went a bit more in depth, and I gave an anecdote of where it helped me out in Spain about last year. But more or less, all you need to know is languages are living. So learning to just stare at grammar tables for hours and memorize declensions and use flashcards to memorize all these words isn't all that helpful if you want to learn to actually speak that language with a native speaker. So what should you do? You should find a native speaker of the language. Let's give Hebrew, for example. I've got some Israeli friends, and they can help me out whenever I've got a problem with Hebrew. Now, get yourself on one of the Innovative Language podcasts. They do so many languages. They even do ones that Duolingo don't do. So here they've got Hebrew, for example. If I click on study, you come to a lesson. You scroll down, there's the lesson thing here. It's got all the words on it. But what's important is it doesn't teach you just random sentences and new words all the time. It more focuses on actually being able to have a conversation, which is really important. Because once you can have a conversation, well, you can speak a language. So once you learn a grammar table, learn how to use this word correctly or something, well, you've not spoken a language. It's really important to learn how to speak and spend time actually speaking. And things like grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, they all come naturally. And this doesn't mean that you should just stop studying languages altogether the way you already are, because it is important to especially vocabulary, because that's what builds up a language. It is important to study that. But I find as long as you know how to use grammar in the right way, it's okay. But if you get things wrong, it doesn't really matter if you can just speak and listen to how people speak. And this goes the same for listening to podcasts by native speakers. If you can't find a native speaker of that language, podcasts, radio, whatever, it's all very good for getting used to how the people actually speak the language speaking. And then it comes naturally. You'll use the right grammar case, for example, because you've heard it before and you end up using it right. And this is how you learn. Right, back to you, linking.
Obviously, just as Che said, his channel will be linked in the description, as well as the video that I made with him on his channel. Go check that out, because I say different things and he says different things, and it's good. It's a lot of... If you like what I make, you're going to love what he makes. He's a very well-spoken person, and he just started, so he's going to be on the up and up. Nowhere else to go but up. Now, to close out, I'm going to address a comment I got on my first language learning video. It was the fact that it's harder to learn a language when you're older. And that's pretty true, yes. It's a lot easier to become fluent in a language when you still have neuroplasticity to be able to learn grammar in a completely new language. However, something else to remember is it's not impossible to learn a language when you're older. There are people above the age of 30 that learn new languages every day. I knew, personally, a 57-year-old Congolese man, and it was not easy for him to learn English, but he made significant headway and was able to communicate, not quite conversationally, but communicate ideas that he needed to communicate. Because I looked some stuff up on it about learning language as an older adult, so I could be better informed on this. There are some advantages that older adults have over younger people in learning languages. And I picked one that I thought, you know what, I've seen myself doing this a little bit, and it's a good thing to remember. It's using memory that you already have to connect words in another language to words you already know. So there's more than one way to do that. For example, I'm going to teach everyone how to say pool in Spanish. Piscina. Don't. Piscina. Piscina. Ha 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 ha. Anyway, and from that, it wouldn't be hard to learn the French word for pool, piscine. And if you already know Spanish or French, learning the other gets a little easier because there's patterns that can be seen in cognates, and that brings me to the other thing that makes it easier for an older person to learn a new language, is the understanding of how cognates work. I talk every video on this channel about words being related to other words, and this is how I use that information to learn languages. I focus on words that are similar or show patterns between two languages, and it helps me build my vocabulary. And anybody can do that. And that's not something that you do when you're young. You do that better when you're old. That's an example of a way that older people can have an easier time learning a language. Hopefully, any of you who are looking to pick up a new language have some new tips to help you better learn how to speak another language. Thank you for watching Lane King. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, click on the video, and go subscribe to Che. He's a great guy, and he's going to make some really good YouTube videos. I'm looking forward to him. And have a great day. Bye-bye.